Hello, welcome to Amy Unplugged, and I'm your host, Amy McCorkle. I'm an award-winning and best-selling author, blogger, screenwriter, and filmmaker, and I'm here today to use my platform, such as it is, to advocate for me and people like me, people with serious mental illness. I'm known for Letters to Daniel, which is my life story with the disease and how I came to be in recovery and to achieve creatively. I also produce a proof of concept series of 9 episodes, Recovery Unplugged, which is currently airing on Monday nights at 9:30 on G1 NBC. It takes a look at creatives and how their mental illness has impacted their creative and professional lives. This takes a look at and basically it's just my thoughts on how mental illness is portrayed in the media. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good. And I think my number one pet peeve is when one of our problems as a society in the United States, it seems to be these mass shootings. And I'm not here to talk about gun control, because I don't think people like me, like with bipolar disorder or depression or anything, should own guns, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about how when the story breaks in the news, oftentimes they say, oh, well, this person was schizophrenic or this person was bipolar, and by doing that and by not explaining what the disease is and what it does, they paint everybody with this who has these illnesses with the same broad brush. And I don't appreciate it. It makes me angry. It makes me sad. It makes me feel powerless. You know, I feel like they're stigmatizing me. They're saying, because you have this disease, you will go out and you will do this awful, heinous thing, and so people should be afraid of you. And whether or not that is their intention, that is the consequence of the way they portray it on all these news stations. And they're all guilty of it. From Fox to MSNBC to CNN. I can't usually watch the coverage for any long period of time because it is so disturbing. Because first of all, you have all these trauma victims. You know, they're coming out of this. And then, of course, there's the victims who don't make it out alive. And so it's a terrible thing. And mental illness, these people are going to be, you know, have PTSD, depression, anxiety, you know, all sorts of things. And people aren't talking about this. Instead, they say, well, let's criminalize the mentally ill. And that's just not, that doesn't solve the problem. It just makes it worse. You should say, you know, what would help is like parity, medical coverage. For people to see that mental health coverage is medical, because your brain is part of your body. And if you have bipolar disorder, I'm here to tell you, it's not easy. It's a struggle every day. Some days are better than others. The weather affects it. You don't know you have to learn what your trigger, what your hot buttons are. After 20 years, I have a good handle on mine, but it's not perfect. You know, I still have those days where I'm hurt, you know, where I'm going to infringe on someone else's happiness. And then, you know, I struggle with depression, which is the kind of depression where it's not like, oh, I'm sad because this happened. Because sadness is a normal, healthy human emotion. Depression is like this paralyzing force. It can keep you from getting out of bed. It can keep you from properly taking care of yourself. It can keep you from cleaning your house. It's what people don't understand, all they hear is that, oh, this shooter had bipolar disorder, and they think, oh, well, if you have bipolar disorder, that means one of the things you're going to do is shoot up a joint. And that's just not the truth. Me, I have bipolar disorder. I've probably been suffering from it since I was about 16 years old, but I was properly diagnosed in November of 1999. And what I have done is taken that energy, because people say, I wish I had your energy. It's really a double-edged sword, because sometimes the energy is so crazy on you that you can't focus, and there's nothing that you can do with that excess energy, and it makes your skin feel like it's crawling. But what I learned to do is I took my love of writing, and whenever I was at my sickest, I couldn't write. There was about a 5-month period where I didn't write word one. It was the most depressing, maddening thing ever. But when I had my breakthrough, I started watching movies, and a preview for Gladiator inspired me to write a story. Now, it sucked, but it got me back on track. And now I write every day, or I try to. And now since then, I've written or co-written 30 books. So far, 24 of them are published. I have 2 set to be published this year, so that will make 26. A good deal of my work deals with mental health themes. The name of the 2 new books are Something to Believe In and The Guardian. One is fiction, that's The Guardian, and it takes aim at mental health stigma in the church. And Something to Believe In is about how to thrive creatively while coping with mental illness. It's kind of like a continuation of Letters to Daniel, kind of like more of an outreach, whereas Letters to Daniel was my own personal story of recovery. Something to Believe In takes that and builds on it. So, and I've also been able to co-write 30 award-winning screenplays. I'm working on my 32nd. And I've had 22 various type of film projects do well. Documentaries, music videos, short films, microfilms, proof of concept trailers. And I wanted to just end this particular episode of Amy Unplugged by saying, if you are watching the news and you see a story where they're covering it and a person has committed a crime, and then they say, oh, well, this person has bipolar disorder. It's important to remember that if this person did it, it's really the disease taking control of it. Now, I believe people are, you have to be responsible for your actions, but to have compassion for everyone. And I know it's hard to imagine having compassion for a shooter, especially when they do these horrible things. It might be easier to look at it as not everybody is that shooter who has the disease. Yes, we deal with problems such as bipolar rage and aggressiveness, but not everyone suffers from it to that extent. And it is important to note that you want to reach out to someone if they're suffering and not shun them, because a lot of the times people become angry and isolated, and that's what really leads to these shootings. So for this episode of Amy Unplugged. Tune in next time and we'll talk about letters to Daniel and what it's like to produce a movie whenever you're coping with serious mental illness every day. Thank you.